By 3 p.m. on July the 10th, 1944, soldiers from the British 129th Brigade were fighting for their lives against the crack units of the 2nd SS Panzer Corps for Hill 112, the key to success in the battle for Normandy. For nearly 4 weeks, the invasion of Europe has hung in the balance as US and British allies try to break out from the beaches. The casualty figures are horrific. Britain and its allies have lost over 30,000 men. The Americans, over 36,000. With the death toll rising and racing against time, US troops are held up in a murderous battle among the French hedgerows. It was vital that the British take the hill. They had to stop the Germans from sending reinforcements to drive the US troops back. As men died in the thousands, photo reconnaissance aircraft captured every moment in this grim struggle. By 7 p.m., and with the main attacks failing, the British send in their reserve force. The 5th Battalion, Duke of Cornwall's Light Infantry, were ordered to take the hill. At 10:30 p.m., and under a relentless hail of lead and mortar bombs, the men of the 5th Battalion charged up the slope and reached an orchard at the summit of Hill 112. Their forward scouts spotted elements of the 9th SS Panzer Division on the reverse slope, massing for an immediate counterattack. The British troops steeled themselves to repel the fanatical SS stormtroopers.
There were machine guns going, 2 machine guns each side of the hill, and they were cross-firing, so the bullets were flying all round and shrapnel from the mortar bombs, and the noise was terrific.
In pitch darkness, the battle raged. Again and again the Germans attacked, and every time they were driven back off the hill's summit.
It was horrendous, really. It was just like a firework night. There was all sorts of wounds, shrapnel wounds, bullet wounds, and they were getting them in the chest and the legs and the arms.
After 6 hours of repelling German counterattacks, the British troops were withdrawn. But one small group of men failed to hear the command.
We were all private soldiers, and there was about 6 or 8 of us, and we were in the corner of this orchard.
By morning, this small band of brothers was facing the onslaught of the German SS Panzer Grenadiers. But during the night, they found a bizarre way of increasing their firepower.
One of the fellas picked up this German machine gun. Another fella came up and he said, "There's loads of Bren guns lying about on the battlefield." So I said, "Well, right, let's go and get them." And so at least 6 Bren guns we picked up off the battlefield with the ammunition from the dead bodies. The next morning, the Panzer Grenadiers decided to do a counterattack and came up in what we call a pepper pot formation. There was a rhythm. You could tell when they were going to pop up and pop down again. And so I said, "There you are, fellas." I said, "Wait till they pop up, then that's the time to fire." So they got about halfway up the hill, and we duly fired at them with these Bren guns and fought off the counterattack.
Incredibly, for 3 days, the small group of men held back the onslaught of the Panzer Grenadiers. Finally, the shattered remains of the brigade were withdrawn from the slopes of Hill 112.
We gathered ourselves together and we said, "Well, how many are there of us?" We counted, and there were 23 of us left. 23, and originally there were 500 went into that battle, and we were the last 23.
But this was not the end of the bloody battle. For 12 long days, both sides smashed each other to pieces on the anvil of Hill 112. The area below the hill became known as Death Valley. After a week, the British finally claimed victory, but at a terrible price. They suffered almost 7,000 casualties. No one knows the extent of the German losses.